hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Attia.
On Pulse 95.
Oh my God. I think I got 2 years to going solo.
It happens.
Honestly, when you weren't here, I kept pressing on guess. I'm like, no.
You know, I did the opposite. When I was doing solo, I clicked Mikhail and Aisha, and I'm like, oh, Aisha's not here. Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. We're going solo. But we're back. We're back again.
Oh, we're back. It's been 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Since we've been together. Mm-hmm. It feels like forever, but we both needed that summer vacation, you know?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I was just telling Mikhail that for some reason, I needed this so badly that my brain deleted the idea that I work, even though it's like I was aware that I do have a job, but at the same time, my brain was like, no, we don't have a job. What are you talking about? We don't do anything, you and I.
It takes forever to, like, re-engineer
exactly
into just relaxation mode or back to work.
I swear to God, it's very hilarious. But since you were gone, Mikhail, I was doing a lot of things, and when I was gone, you were doing a lot of things. So I think it's very necessary that I would like to make some disclaimers, a very big, important one. I just wanted to say that Mikhail's review of James Bond, No Time to Die, is not reflective of my opinions.
That's the thing.
Sorry.
I tried to do my own disclaimers on the show last week, and I was like, Aisha would say otherwise, or Aisha would have a different opinion about this. Because, I know it's just like doing a show solo, it doesn't work. There's always going to be just one side of the argument.
Exactly. And back when you weren't here, I reviewed the Cinderella movie, the one from Amazon. But I knew you were gonna agree with me on that. I knew you probably would have given them probably a lesser score than I did, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I need to say that Mikhail was too generous and too biased about James Bond.
I'm a diehard James Bond fan. It happens. I didn't have Aisha here to ground me,
I'm sorry. I mean, I did give him a whole very long voice note telling him my opinions about it. The next day, I'm like, so here's the issue. And I just went on and on and on. But yeah, we're back again. We're back again with our topics, kicking it off with a celebration, an important one. I know I say this about every single celebration because all celebrations are important because that's why we call them celebrations in the first place. But this one is very significant. You also have a story about that 70s show. It's getting a sequel called the 90s show.
I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm definitely excited that Rockstar Studios has finally confirmed the GTA Remastered Trilogy, as well as there's rumors going around that Catherine Hahn might be starring in her own WandaVision spin-off series.
That is quite interesting. I think I can guess where they can take it, but I'm not too sure if it's true or where they're gonna place her, because we already kind of guessed that she's gonna be reprising her role sometime in the MCU, but this might be a little bit too soon. Who knows? We're not in Kevin Feige's mind. We also have some No Time to Die news. Bond's producer says there are no current spin-off plans. I've got a lot to say about that and so much more. You know where to tune in. It's the Afternoon Karak, only here on Pulse 95.
What's the date?
What's the date?
What's the date?
What are we celebrating today?
Back in 1992, the World Federation for Mental Health decided to make the 10th of October World Mental Health Day. So I'm going to go ahead and say Happy World Mental Health Day, even though some people might be saying that seems weird that you would say Happy World Mental Health Day. Again, my bad.
It's all right.
My bad. Again, I've got 2 years to going solo, guys. 2 years to that.
It's all right. I forgive you. But yeah, it isn't supposed to sound dark or anything. It's just that this is a very important day for all of us out there who struggle with mental health in some capacity. It's a day to be aware and even take a stride into helping yourself, trying to heal mentally speaking.
Yes.
And there's so many ways you can do that. You're not alone in this. We all have mental health issues.
Exactly. And the thing is, the most important part is not to be in denial, because I feel like there are several, layers to it. One of them being the stigma that you'd be like, no, I do not have any sort of issues. whether it's anxiety, depression. Obviously, there is various levels of anxiety and depression and other forms of mental health issues. So I'll get to it in a second. But the first one is removing that stigma and perhaps going like, maybe I do have issues. And the second part is because there are so many layers to it, there are so many levels to them. Some people might have severe depression, some people might have a more milder form of anxiety. So it just because some people have it, quote unquote, worse than you does not mean or does not undermine your own feelings or the experiences that you're going through. So just because you know somebody who goes through severe bouts of depression doesn't mean that you are not having some issues of yourself, and doesn't mean that you should be like, actually, you know what, I'm not as bad as this person, so I'm perfectly fine. Because sometimes it might be something that can lead to it. It might be you are at the beginning of it, or who knows, you might, just become worse and worse, or who knows, you might just stick to that. But even that feeling, even a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of feeling this or that is not a good thing anyways. Just because you have, quote unquote, less of it does not mean that you should be like, I'm perfectly fine. So the biggest step, most important step, is the moment you feel that, you reassess yourself, try to reposition yourself like by yourself, and then go seek some help. Always go seek some help. Go to a professional if you can. Meet up with a therapist. There are plenty of therapists across Sharjah, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ajman, basically the entire UAE. There are so many of them. And there are times also where you can go online, and there are proper online institutions across the world that have their own, they're verified and whatnot. So they're
affordable.
Exactly.
A lot more affordable.
Exactly. So they're not just some random people on the internet who want to diagnose you, but no, they go through a lot of things, and you go through a lot of things to help you get through this.
You know, a long time ago, I was listening to a podcast from Joe Rogan, and he brought someone in who said, everyday people, who think about mental health and they don't do anything about it. He gave this perspective. He says, you go out and about, you spend all this time and money maintaining your car. You take it to a mechanic, they repair all these things and bring it back. Why are you not doing that for your own mind?
Oh, yeah.
And that just I'm like, wow, he's so right.
Absolutely.
We need to take time to reassess ourselves and figure out, and like Aisha said, admit that we can have issues with our mental health. Mm-hmm. And once we admit it, then we can seek help. We can seek professional help. We can seek some support of some kind. We can
definitely
find ways to express how we feel.
And the thing is, what I've seen happening, including with myself, because I admit it, I do have anxiety, and sometimes I would have some really, really, really bad days, really bad weeks, and then I'd have a good day or two, and I'm like, I'm fine, actually. I'm not gonna do anything about it. So it's all about, like Mikhail said, just like one day you some kind of error flashes on your car and you're like, I need to take it to get it repaired. And then the next day the light does not come out again. You're like, actually, did it fix itself?
No.
Oh, that's fine. I'm gonna keep on driving. No. You go to the mechanic and be like, actually, the light came off yesterday. Is something happening? So that's the funny thing. And if the funnier thing, or actually I should call it sad, to be honest, because if your nose starts, you start sniffling, you start coughing here and there, especially now during a pandemic, you might get a cold and you're like, I need to go see a doctor right now. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference?
Yep.
What is the difference? Like Mikhail said, what is the difference between mental health issues and your physical issues and the issues you face with your computer, your various devices, your phone, your car and whatnot, your pets? It's very funny the way we take care of our pets and even our little siblings or, our friends and whatever and family members. Like, oh my God, you're not feeling well. Let's take you to the hospital. Do the same thing for yourself as well.
And you realize in a lifetime that maybe you should have done this sooner. Exactly.
So get on with it. Do not be scared. There are plenty of people just like you are. I mean, I am admitting here that I do have issues with that. I have sought help, mental health help, and honestly, I should keep on going, but I keep procrastinating. celebrating. So don't be like me. Go ahead and seek that help. If you want to talk to somebody, go speak to your friend. And if you want to talk about it and you don't feel comfortable, you can always text us 4215. It's Salat Ordu. We are your friends right here at Pulse 95 and especially at the Afternoon Karak. Massive advocates for your mental health. We have a text from Hind. We miss her. I miss her very much. I'm pretty sure kept you company.
She kept me company on Thursday,
I
for
know
the Marvel
she did.
review.
She says, welcome back, Aisha. This is such an important and sensitive subject. We need to know that it is okay to ask for help and we are not alone in this. Here in the Middle East, it's such a taboo talking about mental health, but we need to change that. Love, Hind. First of all, we love you, Hind. Lots of love
Always.
towards you, always. And she is absolutely correct. It is a whole stigma. Again, you can start with yourself in basically this journey towards erasing the stigma across the UAE, the
Break
Middle
the
East.
cycle.
Break this cycle and get the help that you need. We're going to be taking a short break, and coming up next, we're going to be talking about that 90s show, sort of a continuation or a spin-off of the 70s show. Coming up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Pulse 95.
It was a while back when we found out the dreadful announcement for the How I Met Your Mother spin-off series, How I Met Your Father. Yes, it's happening. And we had a whole discussion about why is this happening? Why are we going back to recreate a sitcom that already had its place and had its fan base, and it just seems well, a dwindling fan base. I feel people after a while abandon How I Met Your Mother. But Netflix doesn't shy away from greenlighting all sorts of projects, and with now Friends and The Office, basically they've lost the grasp of those shows and they only have a Seinfeld rerun. They're looking for a classic sitcom of some kind with this interesting new spin-off series based on that 70s show, but they're gonna go 20 years later. They're calling it That 90s Show.
I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like, again, it's the usual thing where it's a bit too late. It might be a little bit too far into, after the fandom kind of got over it,
Who's the target audience?
Exactly. Yeah. But at the same time, I know that the 70s show has a massive audience that still like to rewatch it. It's similar to the cult that The Office and Parks and Recreation and Curb Your Enthusiasm and Arrested Development has. It's very similar to that. So there is a good fan base for it, and especially since people, like you said, are revisiting those kind of shows with Seinfeld, for example, and people watching, 30s Rock and whatnot. People keep on watching Modern Family. So there are people who are interested in it. But it all goes back to, will they do the show and the series justice?
Well, I think it speaks for itself because they're bringing back the 70 shows creators, Bonnie Turner and Terry Turner, who are going to be joining as executive producers. In terms of the original cast, only Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp reprising their roles as Red and Kitty Foreman. They were the parents for Eric, and it's set in 1995, and we'll tell the story of Leah Foreman, who's the daughter of Eric and Donna, who's going to be visiting the parents' house in the summer.
But here's the thing. The person who plays Eric is Topher Grace, and he has said previously to the Hollywood Reporter that he would only reprise his role in a reboot if the episodes never aired.
Oh.
So did he go back on that? Because it would not make sense that his daughter is there unless, I don't know, are they going to kill them off screen?
I don't think they can, no.
Exactly. Or maybe they say, they moved away and they just went on to live somewhere else. And
it's a comedy sitcom. I'm sure they can retcon these things,
I don't know, honestly, because again, it goes back to the fandom. So it's all about making sense. So we'll just need to, as usual, wait and see with this. I'm on the fence because, again, it makes the premise of it makes kind of sense. So it's not like How I Met Your Father that just came out of nowhere and surprised everybody. Yeah. Over here, it's like, this is.
I have my walls, but I think as long as it's funny, that's the point of a sitcom, then I'll forgive it.
Obviously, that is the case for us right here. But coming up next, GTA Trilogy is actually happening. Rockstar just announced that. We're going to be talking about that coming up next right here on the Afternoon Karak.
This is Pulse 95.
If there's something recurring here, like one of the many topics you keep talking about here on the Afternoon Karak, it is Rockstar and GTA. I mean, we've been waiting for GTA 6 along with a lot of people for a very long time. But there were rumors that we might be getting some sort of GTA Trilogy remaster happening, and apparently it is actually happening.
Now, recently, before this announcement happened, there was some leaked information from the Korean ratings board that were rating the game, and that sort of already kind of brought all sorts of clues. And so then Rockstar Games at this point, you know what? We're officially announcing that yes, there is a definitive edition of Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, and a Vice City, an entire collection in itself. And basically, it's going to be a bundle available on PS4, PS5, all the Xboxes, PC as well as Switch. And from what we understand, it's the edition is going to be an updated and improved version of the 3 games, but still retaining the classic look and feel of the game.
I don't know how to feel about this. Again, it's just the same feeling, and I keep saying it and keep repeating it because it's like, okay, can you go back to GTA 6? I'm pretty sure there's a whole team working on it. We're not saying that those teams probably converge. Maybe they don't. But come on, they keep milking the same 3 or the same game again and again and again and again. I know they're harboring on the feeling of nostalgia that people have for these games, especially since these communities, and we've spoken about this, especially something like Skyrim, for example, these communities are being sustained by the various devs who create all kinds of crazy things to keep the game going, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we want another remaster of this game.
It's really the fault of GTA Online and how commercially successful it became. It's so lucrative. That multiplayer mode makes Rockstar at least $1 billion a year through microtransactions and such. So I think it's because of that they feel the need to really stretch out the lifespan of GTA 5. There's still a next gen version of GTA 5 that's coming out in 2022, and you have to pay for it. It's not for free. So if you own a copy, forget about it. You got to pay for it.
It's insane. And do you want to hear the funny thing?
What?
I'll probably buy it.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
I think a lot of people buy it because of the loading. Because the loading time on the previous consoles, terrible. This one will probably be just 1 minute.
I'm probably gonna get the trilogy series for the Switch simply because. Do you remember the mindlessness of that game, just going around and creating chaos?
Yeah.
I think a lot of us just missed that, especially since again they haven't been giving us any new GTA game for a very long time.
So this bundle feels like a buffer, you know? The fan base of GTA are like rabid dogs, and Rockstar just threw a really big prime, just like a prime steak on them. It's like
basically
this
like
will
that.
do for now.
This will do for now. And that's the funny thing. As much as we complain, they know we're gonna come back and actually buy it, and it's gonna be very, very successful. Speaking about success, Catherine Hahn as Agatha Harkness was obviously a fan favorite, and apparently Disney is kind of they want to enhance on that. They are probably, according to a rumor, they're working on a spin-off at Disney Plus as part of a Marvel deal coming up next right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Speculation, gossip, or hoax. Rumor has
it that Catherine Hahn is going to be reprising her role as Agatha Harkness in the MCU. Yes, we kind of know that. We know that it's going to be coming back in some form or way, and some of us were kind of speculating it might happen as soon as Doctor Strange's upcoming sequel, but according to this rumor, she is getting her own spin-off.
Yes, this is an exclusive from Deadline. The potential spin-off would center Agatha Harkness as the character, of course having Christine Hahn reprising the role, and it's going to be under a larger deal that she has made with the studio. An Agatha Harkness spin-off series Actually, I wouldn't mind it because I feel what's happened is Loki was so popular, and he's technically a villain of some kind, and the fan base loved that so much, and because of that reception, this is like, why don't we bank on more villain-based series? We got Agatha. They loved Agatha. Why don't we bring her in, you know?
I think that maybe they're going to focus on her past because she is kind of, let's say, in some sort of jail, or she's been put away by the Scarlet Witch, also known as... hold on, I forgot the name. What's her name? Wanda. Goodness,
Wanda,
how can I forget Wanda?
I was like, Elizabeth Olsen.
Me too. I'm like, Elizabeth. I'm like, no, that's not her. Yeah. That's not her name. But yeah, Elizabeth Olsen, who plays Scarlet Witch, who plays Wanda. She basically put her away somewhere. I'm guessing, like I said, I honestly thought, or at least a lot of people thought, that she's going to be reprising her role as soon as possible within the upcoming Doctor Strange movie, because it's all about, the magic and the chaos that happens, and he will probably need some sort of help from another sorcerer. So who else to call out other than Agatha Harkness? You probably might find her and pull her out or something like that. Maybe even Shang-Chi. I'm sorry, guys. That's kind of a spoiler if you haven't watched the movie. Just a tiny bit of a spoiler. But my point is, they're probably going to need her back sooner than later. So it's very interesting. I don't think they're going to basically focus on the present. Maybe most likely on her past. Talk about how she became or who she was. Maybe that can tie in somehow.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's been 100 years since the witch trial. What has she been doing up to the point until she met Wanda? And maybe the series could explore the world of magic and the different types of magic, like chaos magic and all the other stuff from, Doctor Strange's world,
Exactly, because all we know about that sort of magic is a little bit of information we gathered from WandaVision, but nothing beyond that. And of course, we also know about the magic that Doctor Strange deals with, and it's a bit different, even though they kind of converge. So I think it's important, unless she's not going to be appearing this soon, and we might be getting something that would tie her in further with the MCU a little bit later, and maybe perhaps explains how she makes her way into the MCU. Lots of speculations, but again, this is a rumor. This is not set in stone. We don't know if it's going to be happening or not, even though Deadline is a proper place for information. But again, it's according to their sources.
Brings a lot of attention.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that it was Agatha all along.
It was Agatha all along. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about No Time to Die, because according to, and I love her name, Barbara Broccoli, who is the producer of James Bond, she says there are no plans for a spin-off, and we might delve a little bit into spoiler territory if you haven't watched that movie yet. But 4215 Etisalat, or do join in the conversation. We'll be taking a short break, but coming up next, and this is going to be talking about right here on Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Before we get into the story, I just wanted to say once again that I really, 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 really love the name of James Bond's producer. Her name is Barbara Broccoli. And honestly, I kept thinking about it. Imagine being called out, being Miss Broccoli. Miss Broccoli, that is such a cool name. Now that I'm done with that, let's go on to this piece of news where she basically says that after the movie No Time to Die, there are no plans of a spin-off. And we're going to be delving a little bit into spoiler territory here, just giving you guys a heads up, just in case we do talk about some things that have happened throughout the movie, starting from now.
Okay, so you want to talk about the spoiler, or should we? Okay.
Go ahead.
So Barbara Broccoli, she overseen all of the Daniel Craig movies. And with MGM now sold to Amazon, with her statement saying, oh, we're not doing any spin-offs, things or anything. My question is, okay, it does feel maybe Amazon might do something in the background, because they've established so many characters, like Lashana Lynch's 007 position. There's a few good characters like M, there's Moneypenny, there's Q. Amazon, who owns now everything that MGM has, which is James Bond, I know they're dying to have some sort of series spinoff in the near future.
See, what's interesting here, okay, so again, we're going to be talking about that spoiler. So again, if you have not watched it, this is a major spoiler. his basically the ending, his death was kind of like interesting in the sense that they basically were like, okay, he's done. He's obviously officially done. He's gone. Khalas, don't even think about it. They didn't want to do the something similar to Batman with The Dark Knight Rises, where you think, oh, he's gone. Khalas, everybody's sad. They hold a funeral and then they're in Paris and they kind of see him there in the background. I think that is an interesting trope. It is often brought back very often within the scope of action movies. I mean, I honestly, that's what I expected. I'm not even kidding. I was like, I know they're gonna end it up seem like he died, and then at the end of the movie, maybe there's some sort of after credit scene.
But they didn't do a cutaway. They were like, boom, there it is.
He is gone.
Conclusion.
Literally, you see him go. Khalas, there is obviously no other option. But then when we talk about the spin-off, we've got, like we said, we've got the new 007, and that is Nomi. And I think it would be a missed opportunity if you do not capitalize on her, because she was such an interesting character.
Yeah, it's a world that has been expanded since 2006, because, Real, with even Barbara Broccoli saying that we're not looking for a new potential James Bond until as of next year. So the question is, are they really just going to reboot everything from scratch and reintroduce a new James Bond? Or is it going to be where that we're still in that same world that we've established through the movies, and we bring a character that almost can fit the role of James Bond in some way?
Kind of finish off or continue the story.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with James Bond is that we're getting a very classic story, a very classic franchise. I mean, the normal thing is to reboot it after you're done with the series. You've got, like Pierce Brosnan and all the other previous James Bonds. It's just a normal thing with the James Bond series. It's nothing new. But then you need to fit in with the new trends that are happening within the world of cinema and even TV shows, because now they converge. Things that happen in movies can now continue in a TV show and vice versa. Things happen in TV shows, they continue over in a movie. And that has been sort of a slow trend at some point, because, when it comes to animated shows, more often than not, we get some sort of movie. Even in the world of anime, you watch an anime and then they give you a movie, then they continue with another season.
It's non-canon, but enjoying.
Exactly. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting now that we're seeing it outside of the world of animation into all kinds of TV shows and movies. And especially now, since all of these big streaming services are trying to capitalize on their big IPs, it only makes sense that since Amazon has I'm going to say it, and they only have Lord of the Rings. Even though they do have Harry Potter.
Or Lord of the Rings and the Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time is still kind of new.
Yeah.
Harry Potter is HBO. Sorry about that. I keep getting back confused. But still, they only have Lord of the Rings. Wheel of Time is kind of it's still very new. And they have The Boys now, so they're kind of growing some new franchises, but then they're kind of behind in terms of IPs in comparison to Netflix, to Disney when it comes to...
So I know they're looking at James Bond, they're like,
let's do something.
A license to adapt.
Exactly, a license to it. I like that. Honestly. And that's a very good one. Very good one.
But I imagine stories of 007 agents. That would be really cool.
That would be really, really cool. It would be very smart of them to capitalize on it. Even though the trend is you finish with this James Bond, you move on to a new one. Maybe it is time to perhaps elongate the life cycle of this version of James Bond, or at least this universe of James Bond. Coming up next is a story. I love this story so much. They rescued 2 people off an island after spending time there for 29 days. They were basically marooned there. They were washed ashore for 29 days. And when they got them back, they're like, it was a nice break. I love that. Coming up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Not in the news?
Not in the news. Weirdness that happened
Today.
True story.
2 men were rescued after 29 days lost at sea, and they survived on oranges and rainwater. But that's not the interesting thing that they said, because one of the men who was rescued, he said, I look forward to going back home, but I guess it was a nice break from everything.
Wow.
How bad is your life that you go like, I don't mind being deserted indefinitely on an island?
It's more like, I think he had an epiphany when he's out of that that life in the city and being in everyday society, just being somewhere secluded, away, alone, in a quiet place, it does probably change perspective, and maybe things are a lot more peaceful. You don't worry about things too much. He even made a joke about, he's like, I heard nothing about COVID while I was away, you know?
I mean, I get it. I understand the pandemic took a toll on a lot of people to various degrees, but I don't think I can live off oranges and coconuts and rainwater for 29 days because I feel like acidity, that's going to hurt my stomach a lot.
Yeah. And you probably need your daily, coffee, your daily snack.
I just need, oranges aside, I just need leafy greens, some rice, something to complete it.
I know 2 days in the middle of an island, Aisha's like, where is my green tea? What is this? This is absolutely horrendous.
I would probably make kelp tea. That's how bad it's going to be. But I'm just saying, honestly, good for them. I'm glad they found it hilarious and funny, and they were actually content with it. And that just tells you how chaotic our world is, that being deserted on an island indefinitely, most times when we watch all those movies, you'd be like, oh, it's terrifying. I would never want to be in that situation. But apparently, it's not bad sometimes.
It's not bad, yeah. It's probably the kind of detox we all don't even know we need.
So an island getaway, that's going to be our next break, Mikhail and I. When he goes off for his 2 weeks, I go off for 2 weeks, you'd know that we are on some sort of island, not deserted or marooned, but maybe some sort of a beach resort somewhere. Going to be taking a short break and wrapping up with one last segment right here on the Afternoon Karak. So stay tuned for that and stay locked to Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.